and down. Light on me. 2 down. Orange. On me. I have no coins. Can't break through that door. I'd break through that if I was alive. Went above. Watch out. Bomb. Left, 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 left. Behind. Come. Keep it. Hold it. We have two people. Get him. Get cash out. I got you. Got home wipe out. One dead. Team wipe. Just one tap. No, we're fine. Just don't wipe. Get somewhere safe. One down. All right. Don't die. Don't die. Stay right there. Yep. Good shit. One more. One more. Get him in. Tear him up. Can you charge? It's half dead. Half dead. He's in healing. We have one more push. We have one more push. Got him. Ah, orange. Right. To your right. Third place, not bad. Watch my stream over there. Okay. One down. Two down. Team what? Where are they? Right up. Well, when right, got him down. Got him. Got him. They got him. They're on me. Hey, how's it going?
Hello?
Hey.
Jeremy?
Yep. I'm live streaming right now on TV.
What?
I'm live streaming on TV right now. I just took my headphones off. What's up?
Okay, I'm just saying this is your number though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about ready. I might send that Uber. So can you text me your address and all that?
Yep.
Okay, I'll let you know when to go outside, okay? But send me your address, okay?
All right.
Alright, bye. Bye.
that how many presidents made sure that there was aid and money and weapons that go to Israel, as he talked about Lindsey Graham, and then he talked about Lindsey Graham going above and beyond. And he's reminding Americans that because that is exactly what he expects. And I think he also says this to push buttons and outrage people, because it has outraged people. It's outraged many Americans. The majority of Americans are fed up with it. But I can tell you right now, Lindsey Graham, he was a great politician. He truly was. And he was very good at making sure that Americans' tax dollars were spent. And that's one of the reasons why we are in $40 trillion in debt today, because of lifetime politicians like Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you didn't mean great politician as a compliment in that sentence. So okay. No. So we're gonna go to his final mission in a second, but I wanted to show you more of that interaction with Netanyahu so you get a full sense of what we mean. Let's watch.
The last conversation I had with him, I said, Lindsey, we've come of age. We have a robust economy. We can take care of our own financing our own weapons for the defense of Israel and defense of our common interests with America. So I'm going to phase out the support, the military support for Israel over a period of years and bring it down to zero. We can do it. And he went ballistic. He said, no way, you can't do that, because he was so concerned with our security, which he believed was your security, that he actually fought the Prime Minister of Israel on keeping America's aid or actually increasing it.
Okay, so apparently the monstrous amount of money we've given to Israel and the number of wars we've committed on their behalf was not enough for Lindsey Graham. So that brings us to his final mission. He actually found out that, he knew he wasn't feeling well on Saturday, and his staff tried to get him to go to a hospital, but he wouldn't do it because he had to go on Meet the Press on Sunday, he said. So let's try to find out, what was it so important, saving the world, making sure we get the peace? What was his final mission here that he pretty much seems to have in some ways sacrificed his life for? Well, as Barak Ravid, as usual, explains at Axios, he was discussing with a person who spoke, well, here, let me quote him first. A person who spoke with Graham shortly afterwards said the senator complained that he was feeling unwell. When the person immediately, Graham said he would do so Sunday morning after his scheduled appearance on NBC's Meet the Press. And why is that? Well, he said, I can't die now. I still need to do the Russian sanctions, get Iran sorted out, and do the Israel-Saudi normalization. So, okay, well, how about those three events? What is that? One is they claim he was trying to get to a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I've never seen Lindsey Graham ever be for peace under any circumstances. He was probably lobbying for a lot more war, in that case against Russia. In the case of Iran, it was crystal clear what Lindsey Graham was for. He was going to go on Meet the Press and fight for more war, and all, of course, on behalf of Israel. By the way, if you don't know, the Russia-Ukraine war has a lot of different reasons for it, and some of it is perfectly legitimate in my opinion. But some of it also is driven by Israel wanting to weaken Russia, that they, in their opinion, was helping proxies of Hamas and Hezbollah. And so Israel's also very happy to keep that war in Ukraine going. And then the Saudi normalization with Israel is to cut out the Palestinians, make sure they don't get a state, and have the Arab states betray them in doing a deal with Israel. So, and as they continue to explain on Axios, Graham's plan was to begin an intensive diplomatic push after Israel's October elections and the US midterms, with the goal of reaching a deal before the new Congress was sworn in January. Graham believed that the war with Iran had to be brought under control, especially the ongoing crisis in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that sounds like he wants it to end. No. He had urged Trump to authorize a short, overwhelming military operation to reopen the strait if diplomacy failed. So, look, I've got more on his legacy, but let me bring you back in, Marjorie. So, we're all supposed to mourn, according to Washington, the passing of Lindsey Graham and what a beloved senator. And there's all sorts of talk about how he was so nice to Cory Booker and other Democrats and what a lovely person he was. And I don't know any of that in person, and you might, I don't. And that could easily happen. There are a lot of terrible people in the world who are not impolite in person, right? But what I do know is that he always pushed for war. On Iraq war alone, hundreds of thousands of civilians died because of the wars that Lindsey Graham pushed. So I don't have any complicated feelings about Lindsey Graham. I think he was a terrible person, and I don't mind saying it the day after he dies. And I think and I care so much more about the people he got killed. But Washington says that's very impolite. So I'm curious what you think of Lindsey Graham's record.
Well, having served in Congress for 5 years, I can tell you the ways of Washington is there are plenty of people there that are completely nice people. They're pleasant to be around. They may be fun. They have great senses of humor. That was Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham he would talk to anybody. And he did have a great sense of humor. He was funny, fun-loving. He had tons of energy, and he worked diligently on the things that he cared about. But I can also tell you, I disagreed wholeheartedly with many of his policies. He was a neocon warmonger. He was a murderer. He wanted to wipe out and kill many innocent people in Iran, in Gaza, in Lebanon. He supported war more than anything. He never wanted peace. The only time he may have been interested in peace was because this war is hurting the midterms for President Trump and Republicans. However, one thing about Lindsey Graham that we can all say for sure is he was a dedicated Zionist. And that's why he worked so diligently to send as much money as possible, weapons as possible for Israel. But he was also, he may have been an elected US Senator, but he really was the greatest lobbyist that the military industrial complex could ever have holding power in Washington. And his state, South Carolina, has over 400 military contractors, over 400 that Lindsey Graham made sure that got all types of contracts, grants, got all types of US tax dollars to continue their work to serve the military industrial complex. So it is an interesting thing of how everyone's being shamed and told you can't say anything negative about Lindsey Graham. Look, we can say two things. We can say, oh yeah, he was a delightful person to be around, but at the same time, I disagreed with him adamantly on many, many issues. And it's okay to say both of those things.
Yeah, two things can be true at the same time. Again, I don't know anything about him on a personal level. So if Cory Booker says he was a swell guy, fine. I don't really care though.
Right.
So, George W. Bush always joked around with people and gave them nicknames, Big Slim and stuff. Seems like a pleasant guy, in real life, maybe. But he started a war that got hundreds of thousands of people killed. And so that is the far more relevant part of George Bush's career. Okay, so I want to give the audience more context for what we're talking about so they understand from Lindsey Graham's own mouth the things that he advocated for. So let's start taking a look at that.
To people in my party, I'm tired of this crap. Israel is our friend. They're the most reliable friend we have in the Mideast. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us.
Okay, so God is going to kill us all if we don't obey Israel. Interesting. Let's see what else this humanitarian has to say.
Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Senator, again, military officials say the technology had...
So there is an indisputable monster advocating for nuclear war against what? The Palestinians? They barely have stones left. When you nuke someone, you incinerate children, babies, grandmothers, and that unmitigated monster is being celebrated in Washington today. By the way, I have not seen any weeping over the 23,000 dead children in Gaza. And so that's, and of course I mean by Washington. The American people have turned on these issues. We're not anywhere done yet. Let's keep going with more from Lindsey Graham's own mouth.
So I just want to say, I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II.
Killing all the right people. By the way, he's speaking at the Republican Jewish Coalition, and they cheer wildly. Who do you think the right people are? Almost all Muslims, except, to be fair, also some Christians as well. And wild applause for the warmonger, genocidal maniac, Lindsey Graham. And people ask us to be polite today? Okay, and then if you forgot about the Iraq War, one last one.
I believe that Saddam Hussein is giving aid and comfort, training and assistance to al-Qaeda murderers, that he has weapons of mass destruction. He is lying when he says he doesn't, and he will never voluntarily disarm. 500 inspectors, 5,000 inspectors are not going to make him disarm. He is a danger to our country and the world.
Of course, we found out who was lying, and it was Lindsey Graham. He was lying about the Iraq War. He's lying about the Iran, or he was lying about the Iran War now. My co-host Anna Kasparian wrote on X, good riddance, and people were outraged, Marjorie, absolutely outraged. I didn't see any outrage for the dead children in Gaza. I didn't see any outrage for the hundreds of thousands slaughtered in Iraq, let alone the thousands slaughtered in Iran and Lebanon and Gaza and all the wars that Lindsey Graham was in favor of. And I didn't see nearly as much mourning for the American soldiers and service members who died in Iraq and now Iran. So what do you make of his entire legacy? And then I have one more question for you after that.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Anna. And so just to be clear, the Lindsey Graham warmongering and blatant murder is really, you can call him a murderer. And other politicians like him, they're murderers because they demand it. They demand war. They demand that our tax dollars pay for war. They demand that American-made weapons be sent to kill people. And you're absolutely right about all the innocent children in Gaza and in Lebanon that have been bombed and brutally murdered by
Oh my gosh, what are you doing?
as a whole.
Creeped up on you.
Unspeakable. And I will tell you that it's that wing of the Republican Party that
Can I have
so
some?
many of us voted
Can I have
to
some?
destroy.
Oh,
We
yeah.
wanted to end it. And we thought we were going to do that with President Trump. And boy, have we been wrong. One of the great things that Lindsey Graham was very good at was buddying up with Donald Trump. And he was able to sway Donald Trump to his side, to his view. And that's been one of the biggest betrayals that for people like me, we consider it a betrayal. We consider it one of the worst things that have happened. And it sickens me every single day. And it wasn't supposed to be that way. So in that first clip that you showed when Lindsey Graham said to people in my party, he was talking to me. He was talking to me and a few, Tucker Carlson, a few of us, because we have been so outspoken against his views and his demands for murder and for war. And it should be constantly called out. It's not wrong to call it out after someone's death. As a matter of fact, it's very important to talk about it because Lindsey Graham has been elected in Congress since 1993 and became a senator in 2003. So his views and his warmongering and his demand for murder around the world, and which also led to murder and deaths and PT, all sort of horrific trauma for our American troops. He's responsible for that. And the future of this country is something that we should all take hold of and say, enough. We have had it with this. We want no more of it. But I can tell you right now, there is no end in sight as Donald Trump continues this war. And he wrote a letter tonight and put it out today, ending the MOU, ending the memorandum of understanding, ending the ceasefire, and going straight back into full-scale war with Iran.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later in the show. That is an epic disaster headed in our direction and brought to you by people like Lindsey Graham, who always loved disaster as long as it led to profits for his donors, which leads me to my last question on this topic. Representative Green, we're told by journalists and reporters in D.C. that no, the money barely affects the people in Congress. Yes, the donors that give millions of dollars might have slight influence and they might get their calls returned, but really it's no big deal to the politicians in D.C. And so in the case of Lindsey Graham, he was funded by the military-industrial complex, the defense contractors, and by Israel. So, it was always hard to tell who he cared more about. The defense contractors that always wanted war, or Israel who always wanted war. So I'm curious about your take on who he really served there, and I get that it's both, but I'm curious. I sometimes get the sense that he served, in his case, the defense contractors even more than Israel, and almost every politician in my experience has some sort of top donor that they work for, that they have like these little niches, right? So who's right? Is it most of the reporters in D.C. who say, no, this is a lovely gentleman, slightly influenced by his donors, or did he work basically lock, stock, and barrel for especially those two particular donors, the defense contractors in Israel?
Pretty much every politician in Washington, no matter which party they're in, serve their donors. They serve the people that fund their elections. No candidate, no politician can get reelected without funding their campaign. It's a necessary part of a very nasty business, and there needs to be big changes there. And so, of course, he served his donors. 100%. He served the military-industrial complex, but he served the Israel lobby, perhaps even bigger. But I would say Lindsey Graham as a whole, you could look at him and his policies, his votes, the things he pushed for. He served the American war economy. And Jake, this is something that can never be overlooked and needs to be talked about more and more, because the American war economy is the business in Washington, D.C. And this is the business that they have been in for a very long time. It started after World War II. It started in those world wars, and it continued. And this is the business model that props up politicians, props up Lindsey Graham, and make no mistake, they're going to do everything they can to make sure they put someone in place, not just his sister that Governor McMaster's appointed today, but whoever is anointed next to win that August 11th special election that will go on to the November election. They're going to make sure that person is dedicated to the very same path and footsteps that Lindsey Graham was on. This will be someone that is compliant. They will dress them up and try to make them as MAGA as possible and Trump approved for all the Fox News viewers and the boomers that are glued to Fox News all day long to vote in that election. But they will make sure that whoever replaces Lindsey Graham is 100% dedicated to the American war economy. And it's the American war economy that we have to defeat, Cenk. That is one of the biggest things that I don't care how you vote, left, right, middle, in between, or you're sick of voting. That is the number one problem that we have to rip by the root out of both parties and out of Washington, D.C.
I couldn't agree more. It's money in politics that's driving all of these problems, not just in regards to foreign policy and war, but in almost every problem we have in this country. If we don't get rid of the corruption, we will have endless wars and our country representing foreign governments and corporations to no end. As to who's going to replace Lindsey Graham, we're going to talk about that next. So stay right here. And if you want to hear our interaction with the viewers and the members, become a member through tyt.com/join or hit the join button below on YouTube. We'll come right back and talk about who we think should replace him and who's actually going to replace it. Back on the social break here. I'm going to read these blind, and then, if people say things that are inappropriate, we'll live with it. Nomad said, Graham wanted to nuke Gaza. God had enough of this satanic monster. and sent him flames where he will meet his idols like Hitler and IDF Nazis. So that brother is obviously a little bit more animated than even we are. But yeah, Lindsey Graham is in rare company with people who have advocated for the deaths of millions of people. Not a category I'd want to be in. Virginia Vaugh, 39, says, the only good thing I say about Graham was that he was an okay tipper. I was his waitress several times, and his money always went to Wolfpack. Oh, that's awesome. So thanks, Lindsey, for helping get money out of politics. Virginia, you're the best. And so that confirms what everybody's saying. A pleasant guy in person. It says, oh, but then shouldn't we murder a bunch of people? I hear Ted Bundy was nice in person, until, of course, he murdered you. Wedge said, what are the odds? Mitch made it through the weekend, but not Graham. Did he? We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Mad Chemist, so tired of hearing... Oh, look at this. Okay, well, this is what happens when you read comments blind. So tired of hearing from MTG, that's our guest host today. You quit, you left Congress while telling everyone else to fight Trump. Shut up and stay out of politics. Quitters, they say. Thanks for taking my tax dollars for nothing. Marjorie, real quick, 25 seconds here, but can you address that?
Well, yes, Trump called me a traitor, and then there were death threats on my son's life, and then the president texted me that I deserved it and it was my fault. And I dedicated millions of dollars and helped to the Republican Party, and not a single elected Republican defended me from the president's attacks. And so I would say to that person that made that...
Church, JP or Marjorie Taylor Greene co-hosting with me today. I want to let her finish her thought from the interaction we were having in a second. Let me just quickly say this. Millhouse 513 and Weed Eater, thank you for joining through YouTube. And Jube Nula 4, Arby Scraps, Tim D01, Accidental Pundit, Mr. Bunny Pants, that's hilarious, and All Debs Love. Thank you guys for joining through tyt.com/join. That helps the show a lot. We have lost all institutional help, and we need you guys more than ever. If you think that radical Zionists aren't in the business of trying to cut off the money and attacking a show that doesn't support Israel, then you obviously don't know what's happening in this country. Okay, before we go to the Lindsey Graham's replacement, Marjorie, during the commercial breaks, we interact with the members if they're on the member stream, and then another benefit of membership. But somebody had addressed you quitting, and they were mad that you quit Congress. You explained why, Trump attacking you and other Republicans backing you up, and then you were going to say one last thing, and I wanted to give you a chance to say.
Well, one last thing is I co-sponsored the term limit bill every single Congress. And I never went to Washington to be another Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell. And the term limit bill says that 3 terms is the limit. And so that was something that was important to me. But death threats on my children and my own life, and serving in an institution and for a party that is not serious about actually delivering the campaign promises they made to their voters is not something I'm going to dedicate my life to. And so I would say that anyone that wants to criticize me from their keyboard or thumbing in nasty comments on their phone, why don't they run for Congress and actually see what they can get accomplished instead of attacking me?
All right, there you go. Didn't think that you were going to be a wilting flower on that one.
No.
Okay.
Nor do I really care what they think, so there's that.
All right. So now let's go to our next story. We all found out this weekend, of course, that Lindsey Graham had passed away. And I want to ask Marjorie Taylor Greene in a minute who she thinks should replace him and who will replace him. Those are 2 different answers, of course. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about it. So obviously, they need as many votes as they can in the Senate because of how tight things are in Congress. So according to the Wall Street Journal, this coming week, the Senate is scheduled to consider the nomination of Trump's Attorney General pick, Todd Blanche. On Wednesday, the nominee is set to have his confirmation hearing from the Senate Judiciary Committee, of which Graham was a member. Graham's death could make it harder for the Senate to quickly confirm Blanche, given that Democrats are expected to be sharply opposed. and the majority was 52 to 47, but Mitch McConnell is indisposed right now in a hospital somewhere, we are told, and obviously Lindsey Graham has passed, so they need to fill this replacement right away, and they have. We'll tell you who that is, but remember, there's a temporary replacement, and then there's the person who would replace him on the ballot because he was running for re-election in this cycle. So those are two different issues, and we'll give you both of those in a second. But the Wall Street Journal continues. The process to replace Graham is straightforward. Governor Henry McMaster, a Republican, can appoint a temporary replacement immediately to serve out the rest of Graham's term, and later in the day he did, which ends in January. Once someone fills the position, Republicans will be back to a 53-47 majority, though Senator Mitch McConnell remains unavailable. Then the state would hold a redo of the Republican primary to select a new nominee to take Graham's place on the ballot. Given the state's deep red lean, they say, the winner of the special primary is expected to be the favorite to keep the seat in the Republican hands in November's election for the next 6-year term. And so we've had a lot of different names that are already in the press. Let me run those by you. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette, who Trump backed earlier. Not for this seat, but for the earlier run, Representative Ralph Norman, Representative Russell Fry, former Representative Trey Gowdy, former South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, former Senate candidate Mark Lynch, current Secretary of Treasury for the United States Scott Bessent, former Governor and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and former Representative Nancy Mace. And that one is very controversial. She tweeted about how just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Mike Lawler, who is a rabid Zionist in Congress, was outraged, I say. And he said, literally no one is pulling you back in. This post is grotesque. Taking glee over the potential of becoming a senator because of a vacancy created by the sudden death of your colleague is vile, completely unfit to serve. I happen to think that that's not why they're mad at Nancy Mason. I have different reasons that I wouldn't want Nancy Mason in office. But again, we'll talk it through in a second with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Was a little bit different note. But I got to tell you who they did pick to do the interim Senate position. And Arlene Graham Nordone served out the term of her late brother, Senator Lindsey Graham. And she was part of his kitchen cabinet. And that might have been quite literal in their family kitchen. I don't know, they were very close as siblings. So we were told to what degree she knows foreign policy or politics or anything is not clear. To what degree she will serve power is crystal clear. In my opinion, if she wasn't going to serve the war machine in Israel, there's about a 0% chance they would have picked her. But first, Marjorie, what do you think of the replacement? And then who do you think is likely to win in that melee, and who do you want to win?
Well, I don't know Lindsey Graham's sister, but I can tell you right now that the only people they will consider picking will be people that will have completely obedient votes. So I'm sure they're expecting that out of Senator Graham's sister, and I'm sure she will obviously comply. However, who they picked for the special election and who Trump endorses is the one that people should be more concerned about. And they will vet them very carefully and make sure that these are very serious Trump loyalists. These will be vetted on all of their views, and if they have a voting record as a sitting member of Congress or elected politician, that will be looked at. And of course, it will be the AIPAC donors, the RJC, the entire Israel lobby will be consulted on who they prefer to replace Lindsey Graham, and their voices, unfortunately, will be listened to. And this is completely America last, as always. So I would say I think anyone that's a very America first and is sick and tired of the neocon establishment Republican Party, is not interested in Israel controlling your elected officials, you should probably be against whoever Trump endorses. But we'll see who that is. But there will be an endorsement very quickly, given that special election is August 11th.
Yeah, so the filing period starts on July 21st. They have a week to file. And then afterwards, the special primary is going to take place on August 11th. And if no candidate wins outright, there'll be a runoff on August 25th. The reason I tell you all that is because it's a super tight window. So what Representative Greene is saying about who Trump picks as the candidate will to endorse will have an enormous effect on the South Carolina voters, and that person is far more likely to breeze through this process. So, do you have a sense from the list I read who it might be, who the most loyal servant of the establishment is in the Republican Party in South Carolina?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he picked Russell Fry. That's someone that is definitely a Trump loyalist and will never rock the boat. Will take direct orders and make sure they happen. Somebody that the president likes very much. There's a few others on that list that I'm sure the deep state would love. Of course, that would be Trey Gowdy. That's a Fox News correspondent or host that's also a former congressman serving, I believe, on the Judiciary Committee while he was in Congress. That would be someone that I wouldn't be surprised if it is being highly considered. I highly doubt they will pick Nancy Mace. She would have to make some really tough deals if they did pick her. But I see that as a complete long shot.
Yeah. So, look, I have objections to Nancy Mace for a lot of her positions that you might agree with her on. I don't know. And she's a little bit wild in how she conducts herself, that weird pajama run and then, to driving to D.C. on some boat. Just strange in a lot of ways. But my objections are not the same as the establishment's objections. Their number one objection was that she voted to release the Epstein files. So she became persona non grata there, while everyone pretends that it's not connected to Israel and that Israel doesn't control Washington. The minute anybody voted for that, they instantly, as you know better than anyone else, became toxic in Washington. So there's no chance that they will support her. But is there any chance you think that she could win despite the lack of support from Trump or Washington?
I think that would be a tough hill for her to climb. She came in 5th place in the governor's primary race in South Carolina. So I think that would be a long shot for her. So, I think that's pretty tough.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll find out. But for now, it's his sister who will now probably very, very, very likely start voting for wars, voting for Israel, voting for any other thing that the donor class wants. So the chance of someone that is going to represent you in South Carolina in the next Senate seat doesn't seem overly high. Okay. Let's keep going, because now we got a super important story about an American congressman detained in Israel. So let's go to that.
Sir, why did you not coordinate with Israel on this, knowing they're staunch allies of the United States, knowing the recent history of the October 7th massacre, and most importantly, why did you decline to meet with Jewish survivors of the Hamas terror attacks on October 7th?
The ambassador is lying. We did inform.
Sir, at a certain point, if everybody is lying, but just, sir, you have now said the ambassador is lying, the IDF is lying, the U.S. Embassy is lying. At a certain
the U.S.
point,
Embassy I praise. I praise the U.S. Embassy. The ambassador is blatantly lying.
Representative Ro Khanna was detained by Israeli settlers first with American-made weapons, and then he was detained by the IDF, and the road was blocked. And we've got a lot more to the story, including the reactions, some of which you just saw there with Fox News. Of course, everybody who works there works for Israel. So the way they viciously attacked Ro Khanna was borderline hilarious because of how obvious they made it that they work for Israel. We'll come back to that as well. But before we do any of that, first, I want to get your reaction, Marjorie, to the detention itself. So a U.S. congressman, and he said that they were laughing and saying that who cares that you told the American embassy? Basically, the settlers and the IDF were intimating that America has no power over us. We can do anything we want to a U.S. congressman, and there won't be any consequences.
Yeah, and the tragic thing is they're pretty much right. I mean, it was outrageous. I cannot believe they did that to a United States congressman. He should have never been treated that way. Our so-called greatest ally should never hold and detain one of our elected officials that serve in Washington, D.C. And I watched a lot of paid MAGA influencers attack Ro Khanna, and they were saying he had no right to be there. That's not the California district that he represents. Those aren't his voters. And they were attacking him for all kinds of things. But here's the reality. The people in Ro Khanna's district, their tax dollars go to Israel. And the people in Ro Khanna's district are sick and tired of the genocide and sick and tired of America putting Israel's interest over their district, over every district in the entire country. And so good for Ro Khanna for actually going there, because this is one of the top issues, and the establishment media and the establishment Washington, D.C. Press and the government itself doesn't want that to be the case. But the reality is, you go talk to regular Americans on the street, pretty much in any district, in any city, in any state across this country, and they're fed up with it, Jank. They're sick of it. And that is all kinds of voters. It's not just the left. It is the right as well. However, it's Washington that is trying to change the narrative, and they wanted to make Ro Khanna be the bad guy in that case. And I don't think he was the bad guy in that case.
No. So he's trying to find out how we're spending our money. And he found out we're spending it by giving it to a bunch of terrorists who mock us openly.
Yep.
And they use all the weapons that we bought for them to detain not just the U.S. congressman. As we'll show you later, they also attacked a CNN crew in a completely different instance, and four other Americans who were with Ro Khanna. And by the way, some of them were Jewish Americans, and Israel doesn't care about that at all. They don't care about religion. They're all nationalist zealots. And so, first, let me just show you what happened to Ro Khanna in the West Bank. Let's watch.
As a congressman, I never expected to be the target of settler violence. But when we visited a school in Zenuda village that settlers had burned down, we were detained by settlers wielding M4 guns who blocked our van from leaving the site. They called additional settlers for support and held us captive for 75 minutes, recording videos, laughing at us, and mocking me and my staff. I will never forget their faces. What angered me most is that the IDF soldiers who came to the scene supported the violent settlers over American citizens.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've heard that story from a lot of Palestinian Americans, but our media doesn't care. Our media 100% supports Israel. And in that Fox News interview we showed you in the beginning, if you watch the whole thing, it was an amazing sight to behold, as the anchor kept saying, why would we believe you? The Israelis have said the opposite. So we believe the Israeli government more than our own Congress people? And so let's share that with you guys. And here's Ambassador Leiter and what he had to say about this.
We reached out to him when we heard he was going to Israel, the Israeli embassy here in Washington. Mm-hmm. As all congressmen do, they coordinate their trip with the Israeli government. We suggested he visit with survivors of the October 7th massacre, that he visit the borders so he understands the issues that we have on our borders, mm-hmm. and so on. He ignored that, and he decided to coordinate his trip not with Israel, but with Palestinian activists and with J Street, which is a anti-government, anti-Israeli government, anti-Israeli government advocacy group here in Washington. So, he coordinated.
It's a Jewish Slavic group.
Well, it's
that is supportive of a different path for Israel.
Yeah. I play tennis once a year. That doesn't make me a tennis player. Congressman Khanna hasn't made no secret about his antipathy towards the government of Israel as well. So perhaps if he would have coordinated the trip, and then, to have this incident on Wednesday and wait to release it on Saturday, maybe this had more something to do with his support of Graham Plattner beforehand and the difficulties he had with that, and trying to shift the focus to something else, perhaps. I'm asking a question.
Instead of apologizing for what they did to a U.S. congressman, he does a political attack against him, and mentions Graham Plattner. So why did he release it a couple of days later? Because he was still stuck in Israel, a terrorist fascist state, where they threatened him with guns if he releases that when he's still inside Israel, God knows what they do to him. And he knows that. Did he tell Israel that he was coming? Absolutely. He told the Israelis, he told the U.S. Embassy. That's what the Israeli ambassador is lying about. Did he meet with survivors? Yes, on earlier trips with Israel. But the only thing he didn't do here is Israel demands that you sign up for a propaganda trip where they block you from seeing the horrors that they have done in Gaza and the West Bank. And he coordinated and told him he was coming, but he didn't want to go on the propaganda trip. He wanted to see what's actually happening in the West Bank. They're like, how dare you? Get back on the propaganda line, okay? Well, he didn't, and that's why Israel's now attacking him. And J Street is a Jewish-American lobbying group lobbying on behalf of Israel, but a better version of Israel. And even that's not enough because you have to be a Likudnik, you have to be a radical, lunatic Zionist in order to satisfy Israel. But that's not all. Before I go back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm going to show you one more just to give you a sense of how much all of the establishment said. Now, as Lindsey Graham passed, like, oh, beloved U.S. Senator, we all love U.S. politicians. Oh, a U.S. politician got humiliated by the Israelis and held at gunpoint. Shut up, American politician. You're irrelevant. Only Israel's relevant. So now here comes Kathy Manning, a former congresswoman who now serves as I love this portion of the AIPAC umbrella groups. She serves as the chair of the Democratic Majority for Israel. And then when you challenge them on it, they're like, no. How dare you say we're working for Israel? It's in your name. It's in your title of your group. Okay, listen to this person.
I was concerned about the incident Congressman Ro Khanna had in the West Bank. I'm relieved that he and everyone traveling with him are safe. I have said many times that settler violence is unacceptable. It's wrong, it must be prosecuted, and it undermines Israel's security and the prospects for peace. At the same time, Congressman Khanna's trip had all the hallmarks of a political stunt rather than a genuine effort to understand this complex conflict. If your goal is to learn, you don't seek out only one perspective. It is extremely disappointing that Congressman Khanna didn't take the time on this trip to meet with Israelis living along the northern border who have endured relentless attacks from Hezbollah. Nor did he meet with the victims and families whose lives were forever changed by Hamas's October 7th terrorist attacks. Those voices also matter, and any sincere effort to understand this conflict should include them.
Okay, it's important for you to understand that she's lying, and she's lying on purpose. And they put out like this pleasant-looking woman, oh yeah, well the settlers are a little problematic, but he wouldn't meet with the hostage. No, that's a total and utter lie. 3 different times Ro Khanna went to Israel and did the normal tours that they do. And not only did he meet with the hostages, hostage families during the Gaza crisis, he fought super aggressively to get the hostages released. Now, Democratic Majority for Israel and Fox News both know that, but they choose to lie about him on purpose to try to smear him as someone who doesn't care about those people. So, Marjorie, I've seen a lot of nonsense photo ops, especially at the border, where both politicians from both sides go and they look at the border as if they're going to learn anything from there, right? It's just an invisible line. Like, okay, if you go to visit a facility or something, maybe you get a context. So I'm not saying that there aren't nonsense photo ops in politics. There are a ton, right? But in this case, he's going to see a village that was destroyed by the Israelis. They say you're not allowed to see the places we've destroyed with your money. You're not allowed to see the Palestinian American family who was murdered. The American was 21 years. It was a young guy who was murdered. I think he was about 21 years old. And you're not allowed to see his family. You're not allowed to see their destroyed property. I don't know anything that was less of a photo op and an actual fact-gathering mission, and a fact-gathering mission that no other American politician is allowed on by the thugs and terrorists that we finance in Israel. So what's your take on this? Is twofold here. Number one, photo op or as relevant as trip as you could have in foreign policy. And then secondly, what do you make of the entire establishment turning on Ro Khanna and clearly all supporting Israel's side?
Not surprised by that at all. And of course they're going to do that. They have to continue that storyline, because when the truth comes out, the truth is there's tens of thousands of dead children and babies and women and elderly people that have been horrifically bombed and murdered and shot and blown apart and buried in buildings that have been destroyed. And when that truth comes out, they are going to have a very serious problem on their hands. So of course they're going to continue to attack Ro Khanna. They'll attack any person that goes over there to try to expose the truth, because look at what they did to all these journalists, Cenk. The IDF has murdered, I don't even know, hundreds of journalists and independent journalists trying to expose the horrors that happened in Gaza. But it's also in these areas. I've spoken to many Christians that live there, Palestinian Christians that get attacked, spit on, who they've had their homes stolen, their property destroyed. They are constantly being persecuted by the Israelis. And so it's not just Muslims, it's Christians as well. And it's, they're going to do everything they can to continue the narrative, because the truth is so ugly that this entire world will be shocked when they find out how horrific it is. I can't forget some of the stories I can't get past. One of them I can't get over is that an IDF soldier shot a woman sitting in a tent while she was nursing her baby. And I think the baby was shot as well. I mean, these are the stories, these are the real stories that have happened and have been happening for years. And Israel's going to do everything they possibly can to cover it up. And they will attack anybody that tries to expose the truth. And so is it a photo op or is it an actual mission? I think the truth is worth fighting for and exposing, especially when it comes to exposing the evils and the horrors that have been committed there. And look, October 7th was horrible. I'll go along with that too. And I have no problem saying that as well. I'm totally against murdering people and I'm totally against war. So both sides of it is horrific. But for them to try to turn everyone back on the propaganda train is the obvious thing they're going to continue to do. I never went on any of the AIPAC trips to Israel, so I never had to endure that kind of propaganda trip, thank God. And I never took their money, but they're going to continue to do that to any U.S. politician, whether it's federal, state, and even on the local level.
Yeah, so now some facts to back up what Representative Green is saying. 250 journalists have been killed by Israel inside Gaza. That's according to the International Federation of Journalists. And Committee to Protect Journalists also says it's well over 200 journalists murdered by Israel. American doctors come back and say that there are sniper shots to the head and chest of children. A shocking percentage of the children that were brought in had those. They were assassinated by IDF snipers. These are clearly terrorists. Here's who else backs this up. The Israeli press, the oldest paper in Israel is Haaretz. Their editorial board said that Ro Khanna was totally right. They added this at the end of their story. Thus, in addition to the security forces, which must come to their senses and resume dealing with such nationalist crimes, we also need protective intervention, either American or European, that will increase pressure on the government until the pogroms by law-breaking settlers come to an end. So while our American press lies to you about how all of this is no big deal and Israel's done nothing wrong, the Israeli press says, well, no, it's a pogrom what they're doing in the West Bank and what Ro Khanna was trying to expose. But since we mentioned the press, I do have to give credit to Jeremy Diamond, who has done terrific work. He's a sole light at CNN doing real reporting. I don't know how long he'll continue to be employed there because he's done stories like this. And his team also got attacked by the Israeli settlers and Israeli authorities. Let's watch that real quick.
Kamel Muslit hasn't been able to reach this land in over a year. This is the hillside where his son, Saif, an American citizen, was killed. Looks like it's down here if you want to walk. Yeah. Beaten to death by Israeli settlers exactly 1 year ago. Since then, settlers have illegally occupied the area. Within seconds, we spot a car speeding towards us. We start to leave, but as we drive away, we see that 4 settlers have set up a roadblock. Armed with clubs and rocks, they try and block our way. First with their bodies, and then...
And now it looks like he's trying to slash our tires. He's trying to slash our tires.
Oh, he's going to knock. He's going to tires.
A group of independent journalists and activists are in the car behind us.
Move! Move! Move!
But their vehicle isn't armored.
Watch out.
Without an armored car, without a bulletproof vest, how do I get to my land?
It is unreal. They have no respect for Americans at all. In fact, Marjorie, 10 Americans have been killed in the last 3 years in Israel, and not a single person has been arrested for any of them. They appear to be openly mocking us.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are. They're emboldened and they're brazen and no one stops them. And even our own U.S. Ambassador, Mike Huckabee, basically defends and apologizes and sticks up for Israel relentlessly and shames anyone that says anything negative. And it all goes back to a verse in Genesis that is widely misused to basically brainwash American Christians so that American Christians think they can never say anything against Israel. I'm a Christian, Jank. I'm also a conservative. And anybody that's watching this show right now, if you're a Christian and you are supporting Israel, you need to take a hard look at what they do because they do not support your Christian values. I'll talk about this one. Israel has state-funded abortion up until the 3rd term, nearly to the day of dollars fund that. And they constantly are killing innocent people, and those aren't Christian values. However, it's the brainwashing that's happened for decades that has many Americans, especially American Christians, basically believing that we have to support Israel no matter what at all times. And that is completely and blatantly wrong. And I think this is a conversation that has to be continued to talk about because more people need to be educated on this issue and educated on the crimes and the horrific, awful, unspeakable things that the government of Israel and the IDF supports and carries out in action and defends the actions of these settlers.
Yeah. So we don't agree on the issue of abortion, as almost everybody knows. But I did ask to call out pro-life people. Now, this was several years ago, saying, wait, 23, well, at the time there was a smaller number. Now it's 23,000 children have been killed in Gaza. And 1,000 babies have been killed. So those are direct kills, let alone the incubators where the plugs were pulled, let alone the, all the consequences of the malnutrition and the starvation. But 1,000 babies under the age of 1 were killed by Israel in Gaza. And I've got to give you and Representative Tom Massey credit because you guys were among the first to say that's true. And if you're pro-life in this country, that means you don't kill any babies. Not, oh, it's okay to kill Palestinian babies because Israel's funding us. So great credit to you on being principled there.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, guys, since we have such limited time, I'm going to blow out the next break. We're not going to do it. So we're just going to go to our next story because I really want to do this one with Representative Green as well. So let's go to that.
Israel's contributions to America's defense are important. Our technology is incredible. And since yours is incredible too, and you're the great champion of liberty and free markets, I think the meshing of our two great countries of talent would strengthen America's position, competitive position, both in the economic marketplace and in the military battlefield in many important ways.
It certainly brings up some issues of sovereignty, but we'll have to work that out later.
It was a bit shocking that Fox News' Rachel Campo Stuffy said that at the end, but mainly for 99% of the segment, they let him pretend that Israel and America would both gain from our militaries merging. So I'm very curious about your take on that in a second. But I want to show the audience a little bit more from what Netanyahu said and then get Marjorie Taylor Greene's reaction to it. So let's watch this.
Prime Minister, will that drawing down of foreign aid from the United States to Israel be compensated by the proposal to have a merging of some sort between our Pentagon and your military?
Yeah, I'm calling it from aid to partnership. So we take away the money that is given to Israel, which is one part, but the other part is we co-invest in equal measures in the new technologies that are needed to give our military and your military the advantage. So there are some unbelievable projects. So we invest jointly and take the fruits equally. You move from aid to partnership, and I think that represents what Israel is. And remember, the other thing is that we share with America unbelievable intelligence to save American life. General Keegan has said that when he was working in American intelligence, what Israel was giving the United States was worth, he said, 5 CIAs.
Yet another insult to the Americans, although, as we talked to John Kiriakou the other day, he's not entirely sure that the current CIA doesn't work for Israel. In fact, let me show you that clip real quick.
When I first joined the CIA, we did not like the Israelis at all. They were spying on us. They made it clear. They openly spied on us.
Is the CIA working for America or for Israel?
You know, I hate to say this, but the only conclusion that I can draw is that it's working for Israel. And when you have this constant pressure from Capitol Hill, where practically everybody is taking money from AIPAC, and they're primaried if they don't take money from AIPAC, or if they don't toe the line that AIPAC sets, then, you know, you lose that independence, and the next thing you know, you are working for the Israelis.
Yeah, our guest host today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she wouldn't know anything about that. We'll come to her in 1 second, because I want to show you one last clip that's so important. Almost all the media in America is lying on behalf of Israel, as usual, and pretending that they don't want any more money. But Benjamin Netanyahu actually clarified that in this same interview. Watch this.
Do you have a timeline by which you would like to see that U.S. foreign aid down to zero?
Yes, it's military aid, actually. We were talking about beginning it this year and going for 10 years, but we might shorten it. And that was something, by the way, that I did when I was first elected and came to Congress. We had financial, not military support, but financial aid to Israel. And I said on my first speech before the joint session of Congress that we're going to bring it down. And we did that in 10 years. Every year went down until it finally disappeared. We could talk about that, but we're talking about that with the administration right now.
That's hilarious. He's like, we don't want any more money, except for the next 10 years. And at the end of that, we can ask for more money, and there's nothing stopping us. So, no, they definitely want 10 more years of funding, and they'd like to merge our militaries through Section 219. Marjorie, what do you think of that?
Well, you have to fact check me on this, but I think it was Marco Rubio who introduced that bill that made it 10 years. If my recollection is correct, I think it was Marco Rubio that got that put into place in the first place when he was a senator. I think it's outrageous. Let me tell you, this is the most dangerous thing that our current Congress and leadership is doing to this country. It is literally, once it's done, it's permanent, and it will be completely invisible to the American people, at least right now, and I never voted for it. I was always against it. The $3.8 billion that goes to Israel every single year is something that you, the American people, can see and you can know about. But once this fusion happens between our military intelligence and the Israeli intelligence, and they're sharing all types of government contracts, building weapons, and they're sharing all of this together, this will be something that you cannot see. This will be something that will be completely invisible to you, and it will cost a great deal more amount of money than $3.8 billion. This is what you should be screaming from the rooftops over and calling in every single day. But let me tell you something. They are going to push this through, and that's the terrifying part. And here, I'll give you something. Democrats, if you put as much pressure as possible on your Democrat representatives and your Democrat senators, there's a chance that you could possibly get it to stop, but the Republicans are committed to getting it done. And that's what they're going to do, because this is what Trump wants. This is what the White House wants. Don't forget the chief of staff is a former lobbyist for Israel and many defense companies. This is exactly what Netanyahu wants, and this is the deal of a lifetime. So you talk about the art of the deal, it's getting done in this one. And just before I came on your show tonight, Cenk, I looked it up. I looked on the Rules Committee, and I did not see the NDAA scheduled this week on rules. That is something that could change. Oftentimes, just because you don't see it on Monday doesn't mean that it gets added to the schedule. Thomas Massey has an amendment to remove Section 219 from the NDAA. 219 is the section that passes this insane measure, absolutely insane. And it would be great if everyone can support it. However, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if his amendment makes it to the floor for a vote, because Speaker Johnson, one of the biggest Zionists in Washington, will do everything he can from stopping this and allowing this merger to take place. But when it comes to talking about Israeli intelligence, a lot of that is lies. That's lies that gets told to people like President Trump. It gets told to many members of Congress, so that they end up supporting something that they should never be supporting in the first place. That's what Israeli intelligence does. And I can tell you, most of the security briefings that I ever attended, classified briefings as a member of Congress, the stuff that they would tell us in there was so ridiculous. It was either straight up propaganda to get us to vote a certain way, or it was garbage that was already out in the New York Times and in the mainstream media. And they were telling it to us and trying to make members of Congress feel all special because they were getting a classified security briefing. So the games are absolutely shocking. And I can tell you for a fact that most of your representatives and senators are just not even intelligent enough or informed enough to see through the bullshit that they are fed every single day, especially when it comes to Israeli intelligence.
Well, there was one thing that Netanyahu was telling the truth about in that clip. He said, "We give you unbelievable intelligence." That's true. It's not believable at all. Okay.
Fair point, Jay.
Yeah. I mean, and even the New York Times covered it in the beginning of this war, the Iran war. They came in and said, "Oh, Iran will never be able to close the Strait of Hormuz, and you'll be able to do regime change really quickly." That's the invaluable intelligence they give us. And look, honestly, unless they're in on it, that everyone in American media and in American politics, or almost everyone, is really the dimmest bulbs there is in the country. Any foreign government, of course, is going to give you intelligence for their own benefit. They're not going to be like, "Oh, you know what, this one doesn't help us at all. It's kind of counter to our interests, but here's some intelligence." No, they give you intelligence for their own benefit. Like, you really have to be single digits in IQ not to know that. And so now when they merge our militaries, they get about $1 to $1.5 trillion of free money from us, and all the money we spend on technology, data, our military, etc. And to back up what Representative Green was saying, Marco Rubio did introduce the last 10-year memorandum of understanding. If you don't know, Larry Ellison, in an email that Dropside News obtained, told the Israeli ambassador to the UN, "I'll vet Marco Rubio for Israel." And then he did, and he came back and he said, "I gave him $5 million into his super PAC, and he is going to basically work for Israel now." And so he did in Congress. He works for them in the administration. And by the way, his co-sponsor on that bill was Chris Coons, Joe Biden's top in the Senate. Joe Biden's top donor lifetime, also Israel. Has Israel given money to Chris Coons on the Democratic side? Of course. They've given it 94% of Congress. And that Massey amendment that Representative Reed just referred to is the Massey-Kana amendment. So who are they attacking right now in the press? Ro Khanna. Who did the Israeli lobby spend $16 million defeating? Tom Massey. So this is super obvious to anyone paying attention. But all of our press and all of our politicians go, "No, I can't see it. I can't see the obvious corruption." And so last one here, Marjorie. How devastating is it if we do this merger? How hard will it be to reverse it?
Well, it's catastrophic. It'll be basically irreversible. Look how hard it is for Americans to defeat an incumbent in a primary on both sides of the aisle. You can hardly ever defeat an incumbent. It's very, very difficult. Can you imagine how hard it would be to get people elected that would undo that? That would take decades. Absolutely take decades if it could ever happen. Once Congress sets something in motion, they never undo it, Jank, ever. You can look at every single government program. There's many bills that were passed that never have sunset clauses. They don't end anything. Once it sets in motion, it's the most dangerous thing that could happen for the United States because the American military, our United States military, all of a sudden becomes the tool for Israel. And that's exactly what they want. This is why Netanyahu calls President Trump constantly, why he's visited the United States so many times, why AIPAC and all of the Israeli lobby woos our elected officials and does everything they can do to bring them into that propaganda train because they want more than anything to control the United States military. Well, guess what? They're about to get it. And it'll be something that's completely invisible to you all. No one will know what's happening. You don't know what happens and what is shared in these closed door meetings. You don't know what type of intelligence is shared between countries. This is something you rarely find out about. You can know about $3.8 billion that shouldn't be sent to them anyways. That's one thing you can see. But once this happens, you won't know anything. But you will see Israel use our military and abuse our military into, I would imagine, all types of horrors.
Unfortunately, that sounds exactly right. All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, thank you so much for joining us on the Young Turks today. Really appreciate it. And
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And look, I know some on both sides are opposed to us talking together and us working together on ending the war and ending our so-called alliance with Israel and all of our endless funding of Israel. But I love that the right and the left are getting together on behalf of America. I think it's actually one of the most positive developments I've had in our lifetimes. So thank you for being a part of it.
I totally agree. Thank you, Jank. The only people against us talking together are the Zionists. Have you ever noticed that? It's the bots in the comments and the Zionists. They want to keep us divided because the left and the right comes together on this issue. We will defeat them and we'll take our country back.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, thank you. All right, when we come back, the Iran war is back on, and this time for real, and here we go. And it seems like nobody in Washington really understands what's going to happen next. We'll talk about that. And is Mitch McConnell dead or alive? People are still debating it for good reason. We'll be right back.
I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having non-stop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care. But you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care. I don't believe in it. And I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
No part of Gaza has been left unscathed. Ain't a whole lot left. I don't know why they need any more bombs. Let us be clear. The United States provided $18 billion in military aid to Israel. Netanyahu, indiscriminate bombardment, have killed more than 50,000 civilians, 60% of whom are women, children, paramedics, and journalists. All of this is against basic human decency. You don't starve children with absolutely no humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. It is a war crime. It is illegal for the United States government to provide Israel with more offensive weapons. God forgive us.
We've been on our phones too much. I feel like we just need to touch grass or something.
I told you. I mean, you know what? Let's actually do it. Let's touch the grass. Whoa. Andrew Yang? Not racist, right? It's him.
Yes, it is I, Andrew Yang, out here giving money away, as usual.
Wait, but literally?
Do you use a phone? Noble Mobile will cut your wireless bill in half every month, and you get paid even more if you log off, look up, and touch grass.
Oh, I actually have some grass if you...
I don't think that's the kind of grass.
Not that kind of grass, unfortunately.
Wait, what's the...
Well, I guess that kind of grass works too. All grass works.
All grass and we get cash?
Did you see that thing?
That didn't rain so good, but now it's raining good.
Corruption, injustice, the system is rigged against you. Every day we're blasted by a flurry of terrible news from every angle, which can make it challenging to stay positive and know how to fight back. The Damage Report is your solution. I'm John Derola, and my daily morning show cuts through the noise and exposes the real damage being done to our country, the world, and how we can fight back against it. Corporate greed crushing workers? We'll name names. Politicians selling you out for their corporate overlords? We've got the receipts. Climate disaster, economic collapse, the rise of fascism. No spin, no establishment talking points, just the truth that you need to survive and resist. But it's not all doom and gloom. We'd love to have you join the Dragon Squad, our community of positive-minded activists who turn the day's news into positive action. With new episodes every weekday, listen to The Damage Report to get honest news, unflinching commentary, and daring coverage you won't find anywhere else. Listen to The Damage Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, because understanding the damage is the first step to fixing it.
Jake Huger, Yasmin Alea Khan with you guys. Yas is also on Rebel HQ. Make sure you're checking that out on YouTube and everywhere else. So we have Rebel HQ. Great to see you, Yas. We're short on time, so I'm going to just jump right into the next story. Let's do it. So what you're looking at there is U.S. Central Command confirmed the use of unmanned surface vessels, or sea drones, against Iranian targets for the first time since the war with Iran began, striking a submarine and a ship maintenance facility as the U.S. tries to take control of the strait one more time. So Yasmin's got more details for us and facts for us as to what's happening here. And then we're going to discuss, is this it? Are we going in for a third factions segment part of this disastrous Iran war? And could this be larger than any of the other ones combined? So, Yas, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't clear enough last week, the U.S. has officially re-engaged in conflicts with Iran right now, but this time they are focusing specifically on the status of the Strait of Hormuz, and it gets a little bit complicated and confusing. So on Saturday, it was reported that a Cyprus-flagged container ship was struck by the IRGC as it traveled through the strait, and 23 crew members were stranded and one was missing there. The IRGC said in a statement carried by the state broadcaster IRIB that same day that its forces had struck the vessel because it had switched off its tracking systems and endangered maritime security. It claimed that it had fired a warning shot at the vessel, but that it did not change course. So the IRGC then announced that the Strait of Hormuz was once again closed to maritime traffic. And of course, the U.S. was not very happy about all of this. And this is what reignited a lot of the fighting. So the reporting says that the U.S. military earlier Sunday said it hit some 140 targets, including missile and drone launch sites, ammunition dumps, communication equipment, and other sites, a far heavier set of attacks than in two previous rounds of strikes in the last week. And at least one of those strikes hit civilian infrastructure as well. One attack struck a water pumping station in Mashar County on the southern coast, and it killed the facility's security guard and wounded 4 others, according to Iran's state broadcaster IRIB. So now there's also indication of strikes from the United States, and they have now expanded beyond the coastal areas. So again, the reporting says that overnight, most U.S. bombing was still concentrated in areas along Iran's southern coast, but one attack struck a military facility in Naim in central Iran, killing 1 person and wounding 7 others, the province's deputy governor told the Islamic-run Republic News Agency. So according to AP News, Iran then retaliated with strikes on areas that are hosting our military forces, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan, and Oman. And these are countries whose territorial waters all make up the Strait of Iran. So they're all very geopolitically significant. And according to Reuters, Article 5 of the MOU says that traffic of commercial vessels would start immediately and that Iran will be making arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels with no charge for 60 days only from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa. And Tehran interprets this U.S. recognition of Iran's right to manage the whole waterway, albeit without charging fees or tolls for 2 months. The United States and the Gulf states reject that interpretation regarding the language as meaning only that Iran should facilitate safe passage for vessels and not impose restrictions backed up by force. So now that Iran has declared that the strait is closed again after multiple ships sailed through unapproved routes, the United States, as you can imagine, is not very happy. This is what was posted by U.S. Central Command. And you can see here it says the claim is that the Iranian commander for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy recently said on state-owned media that no foreign vessels may pass through the Strait of Hormuz without being identified, tracked, and monitored by Iranian forces. But the fact is that Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz. It remains an international waterway. U.S. forces are positioned and prepared to keep it that way. And actually, Trump is saying that we do control the strait. Let's watch him say that.
We had a deal. What nobody knows, we had a deal. It was a done deal. And then they broke it. They always break it. We've had 10 deals with these people. And so we're just going to hit them very hard. And we're going to keep the strait, and we'll probably run it. We'll become the guardian of the strait. Maybe we'll call it the guardian angel of the strait. And we should be reimbursed for that. When we do that, we're going to be reimbursed because the other nations are very wealthy. They're on our side. And we can't be expected to do that for nothing, unlike we had for many years. You know, we guarded the strait for 50 years more, and we never got paid for it. They made all the money, and the United States was just, they wouldn't. It's amazing. We never made. We guarded it for nothing, and now we're going to guard it. We're going to get paid for guarding it. A lot of money.
And of course, he had more to say because he always has more to say. And in a Truth Social post this morning, he announced that the U.S. will reimpose its blockade of Iranian ports and will impose fees on cargo. You can see his Truth post here says the Hormuz Strait is open and will remain open with or without Iran. We are reinstating the Iranian blockade, so named because it is only stopping Iran ships or customers from entering or leaving. All other countries will have fair and open use of the strait. The USA will be from this point forward known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait. No, we will not be known as that, but as such, and as a matter of fairness, will be reimbursed at the rate of 20% on all cargo shipped for any and all costs necessary to do the job of providing safety and security to this very volatile section of the world. The process information will begin immediately, he says. So just remember also that last month, Marco Rubio, he actually slammed these charging fees in the strait as illegal. What he said was no country is allowed to charge tolls or fees on an international waterway. That's existing international law. And he is the Secretary of State, so perhaps he knows a thing or two about this. Then again, Trump is the president, but he doesn't seem to know a whole lot about these things. But according to the U.S. Joint Maritime Information Center, the blockade is going to go into effect tomorrow, and this is covering all of Iran's ports, oil, terminals, and coastal areas. Also, the fees will be enforced for any vessel regardless of country. And it says that any vessel suspected of entering or departing the blockaded area without authorization is subject to interception, diversion, and capture. Non-compliant vessels may be legally compelled with force. This is all from a statement. And the center said neutral transit through the Strait of Hormuz heading to or from non-Iranian destinations will not be impeded. So, of course, Iran has responded to Trump's claims, and this is from DropSite. The statement is that Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, the Joint Operational Command of Iran's armed forces that coordinates the military and the IRGC, issued a new warning rejecting any U.S. role in the Strait of Hormuz. The headquarters spokesperson said that Iran will under no circumstances allow the United States to interfere in managing the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian forces will respond forcefully to any U.S. military activity affecting commercial shipping outside routes designated by Iran. The Gulf states were also warned that providing logistical support to U.S. forces would be considered an act of war against Iran's sovereignty and national security. And the statement said that if the conflict expands, the flames of war, that's a quote, could engulf the entire region and blame the U.S. and its regional partners for any further escalation. Also, the IRGC's Public Relations Office, they put out a statement as well. It said the only way to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to vessel traffic is for the aggressive U.S. military to end its interventions in the strait and respect the sovereignty of countries over their own coastal waters. And they added the continuation of these interventions will lead to even greater disruptions affecting the global oil and gas sector. And by the way, Cenk, Brent crude oil prices rose more than 3% today. And we did see Trump address that at one point. He was talking to some people about oil and gas prices, and he was like, yeah, every time we hit Iran, the gas prices are going to go up a little. Hey, he said that while he was talking about the affordability crisis, by the way, so that is kind of where his mind is at with all of this. But Cenk, this does sound a lot worse. It seems as though there has been no successful diplomacy, peace talks, whatever. Like, we're just going back to square one, and we're still fighting over the strait.
Yeah. So I can guarantee you what's going to happen next. And that comes from a guy who, for now months, have said, I'm not really positive what's going to happen next because there's so many mixed signals. And Anna and I had some conversations and even slight debate over it. So I'll come back to that in a second. But now it's crystal clear because Trump is giving an address on Thursday night to the nation. And he apparently sent a letter to Congress we found out about right before we went live on air here. Where he said the war is back on. And so he's sending a formal letter to Congress, and that gives him another 60-day window at least to conduct more aggressive war, apparently in his mind. But, he doesn't really follow the law that much. So the fact that he sent that letter is an excellent indication that he thinks, yeah, we're done with the peace conversation. And in fact, you've seen him say that several times over the last couple of days. The peace deal is over. The war is back on. So this is not one of those conflicts that they were characterizing as, oh, no, this is just a small little flare-up, but we're right back into the peace talks, and this is no big deal. No, the peace talks appear to be over now, and we're back into war. So a lot of people in this country don't seem to understand what that means, including people in the media, people on Wall Street. I'll come back to that as well. But let me now explain why I think it's so definitive. So first off, Yaz read to you that statement from Marco Rubio earlier in the conflict saying, well, no one is allowed to charge a fee for going through the Strait of Hormuz, and it's a violation of international law. Now we're saying, oh, no, we didn't mean that at all. No, we think we now control the Strait of Hormuz, or we're the guardians of at least a portion of the galaxy that's the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to charge 20%. So we wouldn't say that unless we thought we have it and we have it for good, because then Iran can turn around and go, oh, okay, I guess the new rule is 20%, and that's what we're going to charge going forward if we control the Strait of Hormuz. So the U.S. and Trump are acting very, very confident It's over. Iran doesn't have any more leverage.
But
we control the Strait of
this
Hormuz,
year has been
we have obvious
a test.
military advantage over them.
A test.
We're going to continue this war exactly
Job
as
changes.
Israel has asked us to
I had
do,
surgery. My
and they
husband
won't
had
be able to do
surgery.
anything about it. Now, Iran, for their part,
just
they also
multiple
are super
things
confident that they're
have
able to
happened,
control the Strait
and
of
so
Who's
I'm
right?
going to treat
Well, we're gonna
myself,
find out over
and
the next couple of days
I
and
feel
couple
like this
weeks,
lady
because
is someone
full-scale
that
war
I
is
can
back.
trust,
And what happens in that war? Everybody
she's a
seems to be
safe
super
person.
confident. And by the way,
So
I've seen people
I'll let you know how it
who are
goes.
against Israel who are super confident in Iran.
Okay, uptight.
I don't know that.
I feel so good.
So I can tell you right now
that was better than sex. Sorry, husband, but it's true. Like, I had Theragun, hot stone massage, a head massage. I had tingles from my toes to my head. So good. So if you live in Lexington, Kentucky, and especially if you're plus size or LGBTQ, you need to go to Open Heart Massage Therapy over here off, what is Pink Pigeon? Is it Pink Pigeon?
The whole peace thing was a ruse, just like the Israelis. They claim to do ceasefires, but never ever listen to any of them. And we were trying to trick them into delay and to waiting so we can go back to hitting them and killing them and doing whatever Israel commands us of us inside Iran. So, given all this, Yaz, my sense of it is disaster's next. You know, no matter who gains control over the strait, there's going to be a very large battle there, and certainly the ships are not going to want to pass it when there's a giant battle, and we're going to go back. We just burned the bridge behind us. That's it. There's no more negotiations. Iran is not.
Sam, there's cum on your face.
Wait, throw away your plate then.
Siri, there's cum on your face. There's cum on your face. Oh my God, you guys have cum on your.
Israelis, at least under the Trump administration, and we're not to be trusted. So it's full war from here till someone wins. So, what's your take on it?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned a little bit, he really is not concerned about gas prices going up at all, and he has communicated as much to the American people. And I know that it sounds insignificant to complain about an American affordability crisis and gas prices.
Bailey, tell us about your rogue health advice.
Back in high school, when I was about 16, I had one of my best friends at the time that told me if you put your Finish on your face, it gets rid of pimples and acne.
Your what?
Your finish.
As in when you're done doing personal.
Okay.
So down the salmon sperm sort of areas, is that where we're heading?
Yeah, so she would put her boyfriend, her boyfriend.
For the Republicans heading into the midterms, all the ones who are supporting this, hopefully that comes back to bite them.
We're going to do some salmon sperm today. It looks like I've got salmon sperm all over my face right now, but now I'm going to have it injected. I'm sure that you've heard about like the latest trend, salmon sperm at the minute. So for people who suffer with under eye circles, hollowness, people who have got wrinkles under the eyes, Botox can only treat the sides of the eyes. Yeah.
One of the first things that Trump did when he came into office in 2017, I believe, was he pulled us out of the Iran nuclear deal.
And if somebody loved me like she do, yes she does. And if somebody loved me like
reason to utilize the United States military against Iran. And I did agree with Anna when she was saying that the peace talks were a ruse because they never felt real. They always felt like something like, oh, we have to show that we're pretending to do diplomacy. We have to show the people that, look, we tried, right? And that is exactly what's happening right now. They're saying, look, we tried the peace talks. They didn't work. We did everything we could. So now we have no choice but to just do more bombing and more death.
Cum, the revolutionary face cream that squirts for glowing skin. Just aim the cum squirt gun and
continue to go on and on and on for years. and nothing will be accomplished, right? We as a people are familiar enough by now, or we should be, with these long haul conflicts that we seem to always get ourselves into, particularly in the Middle East, right? And you could also look at Ukraine. These things go on for years, and people's entire lives are being disrupted the entire time it's happening. We here in the United States, we have an affordability crisis, but people over there, I mean, like, imagine your high school career, right? Imagine all of high school, your 4 years of your life, and it's just bombing, and you have to live through that. It is very, very disruptive. It's very destructive, but they're like, you know what? We have
Потому
to
что
keep
петарды
trying.
и все
The
такое
bombing
было,
part,
это
we
вообще
have to
какой-то
keep
кошмар
the peace
просто.
part, the
Она
peace
всю ночь не
talks part.
спала.
We're just gonna like do that once or
Подоставила
twice, and
нас.
then we're gonna go back to bombing because that's what they really want to do.
Yeah, my last points on this are, guys, this is not a real thing. This is the mother lode. We're now past the tipping point. The consequences of the full-scale war that's coming next will be global. They will be historic, and it will lead to a string of ramifications that the people in charge right now in America and Israel don't understand. So the ramifications will be disastrous in the beginning for the world economy, all the people's lives who are lost in that region. But later, my guess, based on analyzing the news, is that there will be significant consequences for the entire region, including Israel. They think that they are above the law. They think that they will never be harmed, that they could just kill, attack all of their neighbors and order America around and force us into one war after another, all of them ending in disaster for us. My guess is after we're past the tipping point, which is as soon as this war restarts, that's it. The dominoes will fall and the ramifications will last years. And eventually, my guess is, and this is a bold prediction and saying it on day one of the reemergence of the third section of the Iran war, that eventually will lead us to cutting off our alliance with Israel entirely. And a rage in this country about how Israel has controlled us that is hard to describe now. So what the people in power are doing is they're poking the bear. The bear is the American people. And the reaction they're going to get back eventually is going to be significant. No matter what anybody says or what anybody does, it's over. The dominoes are going to fall. And in the beginning, it'll be super rough for the American people. We will pay a very heavy price for what Israel has gotten us to do in this war. And so I hate it. I don't want it at all. That's why we tried so hard to prevent it. But now it's locked in. So buckle up and brace for impact. Us first, the war first, that region first, but then eventually Israel. Because this amount of deception, this amount of warfare, this amount of abusing the American people are not going to be tolerated any longer. So now it begins. We'll see where it ends, and I'm not sure anyone knows that. All right, we're going to come right back and talk about, our level of deception in this country by the people in power is so significant that no one is sure whether the former Republican leader in the Senate is alive or dead. We'll be back.
No me dijo si vendría a almorzar. ¿Vienes a almorzar? ¿Sí?
All right, back on TOT. Let's go to YouTube members. So, Better VA says, it's great that TOT's having Marjorie Taylor Greene. Fixes require collective effort. That's certainly true. If we're going to win, we need the right and the left to join forces against the disgusting, evil establishment. Mike or Dave says on Super Chat, Lindsey Graham is currently pushing Lucifer to launch Armageddon. We know Jesus is working on WMDs. We have to stop him from getting revenge on Israel. We have to act. Remember your promise to make that disc great again. Sounds familiar, and it's similar to what I said, but like Jewish mythology instead of again. He's pushing Hades to attack Zeus and Poseidon, saying Poseidon will never be able to close the strait. Constantine Kavira says the Greek Orthodox Church has an expression when a loved one dies, may their memory be eternal. I recently realized it also works great with horrible people. I hope Lindsey Graham's memory is eternal. May we always remember what he's done. Here, Constantine. Elvin Torres 343 says, love MTG. I'm glad you have her on your show. She's a true patriot who puts the interest of the American people first. I voted for Trump 3 times, but then he became a never-Trumper himself, and hence he lost me. Gaga Thompson 78 on X says, I love MTG most. GFYSBB, I don't even know what those letters mean. Massey MGT 28. This one is too long. Let's save for the next segment. And James Triceps Fury says, let's be honest, his sister was handpicked by defense contractors. She's obviously been bought and paid for already. Yes.
Good God. You think that means recording after after? Okay. Look at you, slut wife, huh?
Yeah.
Is your husband gonna come home a little later?
Yep.
I'm gonna put some cum on that pussy.
Yeah. But also,
cover it.
And long
you like that idea?
Kate, thank you guys for
wanted me to call you while you're fucking me.
or becoming a member.
Oh, yeah?
You can do both of those things through tyt.com/join, just like they did. And to the person who gave a significant contribution, we appreciate you. And we definitely need it, and I can't thank you enough. And I love the way the American people now on the left, middle, and right are beginning to serve.
See how wet that pussy is already?
Support honest shows, independent shows that actually have your best interests in mind. So we love and appreciate you guys doing that through tyt.com/join. Anthony Nudge, thank you for joining through YouTube. The join button below. And Uma Karam, wow, sent 50 Young Turks gift memberships through YouTube. I appreciate you deeply. Okay, guys, one note from our sponsor so you can get better sleep, and then we'll go to the Mitch McConnell story.
I like your cock.
Allows you to,
oh, God.
You like the cock slut?
Yes.
That's a good slut. What do you like?
I like your cock.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like it fucking you?
Yes.
You like that cunt being
yes.
filled?
Oh, yeah, fuck me. Oh, I did.
Oh, that pussy is soaking wet. Show him how wet that cunt is. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Get it?
On my pussy. I want you to come on my pussy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Want that cum on your pussy?
Yes.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, oh.
Take that.
One very funny detail. The 84-year-old senator has been in the hospital for about a month and is under enormous public pressure to prove that he's still alive. Here's the funny part. If you zoom in, you'll see that it's today's copy of the Washington Post. McConnell did this to prove that the photo was taken today. This is what's called a proof of life, and it's often used by kidnappers to prove that a hostage is still alive. That a U.S. senator is using this tactic is hilarious for two reasons. First, it shows he knows how little people trust him. And second, it implies that McConnell's a hostage, which he does actually look like.
So that's former TYT investigative reporter Ken Klippenstein. Check him out on Substack. So is Mitch McConnell alive or dead? Is that photo completely fake? Some Republicans think so, let alone Democrats. Yes, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so Mitch McConnell appears to be alive, and that word appears is doing a lot of work. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting. So over the weekend, a photo of McConnell and his wife, Elaine Chao, was released to the public along with a 600-word statement that was allegedly written by McConnell himself. So in the photo, he was holding a newspaper with Sunday's date on it. It said July, the 12th. He was sitting upright, looking healthier than we have honestly seen him look in years, okay? Even his forehead wrinkles were completely gone, so we're very happy for him there. But this comes nearly a month after McConnell was reportedly taken from his home to a hospital by ambulance, and the public has had very little indication of his health since then, apart from testimonies from people like Scott Jennings on CNN, who most people do not find to be very credible, as it would seem. So the situation was so dire that Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, who is a Democrat, by the way, implored McConnell's office to please provide some sort of proof of life, because the constituents of Kentucky, like, they deserve to know whether or not they have a senator and the written statement. Is it convincing enough? Is it enough for people? Is this the proof of life that we were all looking for? Well, the public has already been bracing for a weekend at Bernie's type situation to play out, and in the age of AI, anything is possible, especially with an administration that is particularly fond of AI. So for one, the newspaper is mostly out of frame in the picture, and it is wildly out of focus. You can sort of make out the date on the newspaper if you zoom in, but nothing else is really legible or clear, even when you zoom in. Also, early reports said that McConnell has suffered from cardiac arrest, and in his statement, he specified that he did not have a, quote, heart attack or a stroke. And cardiac arrest is very different from a heart attack. They are not the same thing, and cardiac arrest is significantly worse. Also, internet sleuths have alleged that the photo has no metadata on it, with one investigator claiming that her search of McConnell mentions on the Wayback Machine, all mentions of him from 2023 had been wiped from the Internet Archive, apart from just one mention. There's no way that there was only one time that Mitch McConnell was mentioned on the internet in 2023. However, even MAGA is skeptical about this. It's not just people on the left. Here's Ron Johnson musing that the photo might be fake.
I saw a picture that I'm not sure I believe is actually Mitch McConnell from the hospital. After what I've heard and what I've seen, do you believe Mitch McConnell is the one who said, "I'm okay, here's the picture of my wife, Elaine Chao, and I in that hospital bed"?
Well, I just heard from some other source that was an older photo. So I really don't know. I haven't talked to Mitch. I certainly wish he and his family well.
So that was Ron Johnson. We also have Laura Loomer expressing doubt. She posted this to X. She wondered, how come Mitch McConnell's staff won't release a video of him? A photo could have been taken at any time. I call BS. The American people aren't stupid. She also expressed doubt that McConnell wrote that 600-word statement, and she wondered why there was no IV or anything like that connected to him to continuously monitor his health if he is supposed to still be in recovery. So others in MAGA world are also wondering why they can't just release a video of the senator speaking. But I don't know if that would even be very convincing right now, because even that can be accused of being a deep fake or something like that. So Cenk, it's kind of hard. It's a difficult position that we're in, both as the American public and I imagine for Mitch McConnell, because what could he possibly do or release that would convince the American people that he's not dead? This is a weird time for us.
Yeah, I know there's one thing that's very easy to release to convince us he's not dead, a video, right? So look, I'll tell you what I know and don't know. I have no idea if that picture is fake. I'm not an expert on that. And please don't make me agree with Laura Loomer. That's just, it's too painful. But and she's not the only one saying it. It's just interesting that she's saying it as a right wing or extreme, whatever she is, right? And Ron Johnson, a Republican senator, saying it was kind of amazing, although he's sometimes a bit of a loose cannon. But overall, I know he didn't write that statement. That statement was very lucid. It went into great detail. It was, and it was the guy who is barely alive did not write that statement. There's no freaking way, right? So that was clear. And PR people write all those statements anyway. So is he alive or just dead and they're refusing to tell anyone? Well, yes, my point about that is it goes not to the Mitch McConnell story, but to the state of how things are in America, that no one believes them. Like, in the old days, if the Republican senator who was the leader of the Republicans for decades in the Senate tells you that he's alive or his staff tells you he's alive, no one would have questioned that. Now our belief and faith in the institutions are so degraded, both the left and the right are going, no, I don't believe you. I think you might be such grotesque liars that you're telling us that he's alive and fine when he's actually brain dead or literally dead. And no, we don't believe you at all. And so I think that's super telling of where we are as a society and a government.
Yeah, and none of this is beyond them, right? Them outright lying to millions of Americans is not beyond them. This is just something that they would do, right? Even watching Scott Jennings on CNN, and he was like, oh yeah, he called me and we spoke on the phone for 20 minutes and had this super weird random conversation about everything in the world all at once. Like, it was so unbelievable. Even if he had said, he called me and was like, hey Scott, I'm alive, I'm okay, don't worry about me, I'm trying to get back to work, blah, blah, blah. That would, you'd be like, okay, that sounds like something of a normal conversation someone might have with someone who is in a hospital bed. But the conversation, it was just so ridiculous. The lies are not good. For people who lie as much as they do, they're somehow just still not good at it. For the people who continue to fall for these lies, it's like you really need to stop being so gullible. You need to have a modicum of skepticism in you, right? And I'm not saying that we all need to become conspiracy theorists. I'm not saying that we all need to just completely disregard whatever is left of reality. I think we need to just be a little bit careful on who we trust. I think we need to just be a little bit careful on who we trust. For example, the people who still trust Donald Trump when he says things, the people who voted for RFK Jr. because he said he was going to clean up the food supply and look at what's happened now. All of these people, you have to wonder, like, why did you believe that they were actually going to do the things that they said? One thing that I've been talking about a little bit in my videos on Rebel HQ is that it's very easy to run a political campaign. If I wanted to run as a MAGA candidate, I would know how to do that. You would know how to do that, Cenk. We know the things that these people want to hear. We would know the things that we would have to say just to get people over on our side. It's very easy to pretend to be progressive even. Just say the things that you know that people want to hear you say. And in this country, we have to be able to look at people and be a little bit discerning. And when we're given new information, to be able to interpret that and to use that to look forward to like, why am I thinking, why about this, what motives are behind all of this. I know that we want to trust people. And I think that is what's hurting so many Americans is we want to believe that there is someone out there who's looking out for us, who wants the best for us, who wants the best for this country, but unfortunately, so much of that is just not present right now in our executive branch, in our judicial branch, or in our legislative branch. We need to be so much more savvy as the American people so we can stop getting got by these dumb people, and they're not even good. It's insulting to us.
Michael Schur texted me in the morning and said Scott Jennings had a 20-minute conversation with Lindsey Graham. That's how I found out that Lindsey Graham died. So, guys, if you can do a 20-minute conversation with Scott Jennings, he can do a 20-second video. He's not healthy. Let's put it that way. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, Israel First is mad at J.D. Vance. And they're outwardly saying that we will pick someone else to be the American president. Wait, I thought you didn't pick people. Interesting. When we return. All right. So let's go to Super Chat. Pakistan American for Liberation, right, Sid? Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine 24 to 48 hours before his death in South Carolina. Just saying, was Russia involved in this? Just a theory. Also, Ro Khanna coordinated with J Street organization that's actually pro-Israel yet pro-two-state solutions. At least Ro Khanna had the guts to visit the West Bank. And even if when you cooperate with J Street, you just saw the Israeli ambassador there. They're like, no, we don't care about anyone supporting Israel. We don't care about anyone who's supporting Jewish Americans or Jews. We only care about you have to be a radical Zionist. You have to be for genocide. Yeah. We know. You've become genocidal maniacs. Anyways, he continues, like I said before, the Middle East policy subcontracted to Israel policy because, and this is him saying, and I'll have to give my opinion, they're Jews especially because they show sympathy as Holocaust victims, he put it in quotes, disregarding the rest of the Middle East countries' policies. Has been like this for over 50 years, so U.S. gave green light. So look, I've always divorced Jewish Americans from this, because 98% of Jewish Americans have, 99.8% of Jewish Americans have nothing to do with any of the funding or Israel First or any of that. Only a third of Jewish Americans are even in favor of the Netanyahu government. 2/3 are opposed. Now, the radical Zionists, on the other hand, yeah, they are definitely, we're going to show it to you in the next story, they openly talk about how they're going to pick the next American president, the next Republican officer, candidate, and they're very proud of controlling American foreign policy, and they brag about it. And then when you quote them, they go, "How dare you, anti-Semite?" So yes, they have a huge role in this.
I'm Russ Meyer. I like big breasts. I am an aficionado of the breast. Here, surrounding me, are women of outrageous abundance. It's the very kind of thing that really gets me in a happy mood. I'm responsible for 21 outrageous, buxom movies that have sold extremely well. I've made a success of myself largely because of large breasts. The films I've made have been largely considered to be comedies. I call them more like send-ups, put-ons, get you through the night, Harry, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think I've done a pretty fair job in that area. The reason for the success of the films are these. Had I ignored them, it'd have been zero. I think this particular video that you're putting together, you've peopled them with great-looking women, outrageously abundant, cantilevered, upthrust, blow it away kind of ladies. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the view. Yeah. The kind of breasts I like is representative for the camera. Ones that are cantilevered, self-supporting, conical, that have a kind of a vibrancy, a quiver. That seems to be enough for me. Classic 50s bombshell. Well, I would think in terms of Daisy May, Moonbeam McSwine, all of the girls were way, way overdeveloped. Anita Ekberg, more so than anybody else. I was so moved by her. It was just incredible. I remember going out and working at Warner Brothers to get pictures of her along with Jane Mansfield. Well, she so outshone Mansfield that Mansfield put her clothes back on and went back to the limo. And she was a really spectacular lady. She came from Malmö, Sweden. A remarkable woman. A 50s bombshell, bosomy, etc., wouldn't begin to match these girls. You got to think in terms of it's later, as it were.
We've been eating our Wheaties.
Talking about women at Warner Brothers.
All right, guys. So there was this debate event that happened recently. What do they call it? World War debate or something like that. It was just, I don't know, this big event. And I don't know, it was kind of bizarre. These people came out of nowhere. It kind of reminded me of Politicon back in the day, but Politicon kind of established itself as a thing. But now, like, I don't know, these people popped up out of nowhere and they got these big political debates with, people from online media. And they ended up doing Anna Kasparian versus Pearl Davis, also known as Just Pearly Things Online. Now, for those of you who don't know Pearl Davis, she literally is like the ultimate pick-me-ass bitch, if I'm being honest. Like, all the commentary is like, women suck, women are the worst, men are awesome, you just need to, like, shut the fuck up and serve your man. It's just like, it's like the red pill manosphere space being validated by a woman who echoes their talking points. That's what it is. That's what she does, right? But, you know, the problem for her is, I don't know, she doesn't do much content where she has to engage with other people in any way, shape, or form. I don't even know how often she does, you know, like monologue type stuff. So public speaking is not really her thing. I mean, it's kind of ironic because she has to talk to one extent or another, given that she's in the same